Hi guys, and I hope that you're keeping well and keeping safe. So I'm going to go through a brand new concept. Well, it's not a new concept as such, it's just a concept that I thought can be useful for some of you, but obviously it's down to you whether you wish to use it or not. So um, now I only use this when I'm active on the screen. I don't. I generally look for higher points of interest. So this is regarding the OB strategy. I generally look for higher points of interest for more swing style sort of entries. So I'm not. I'm only aggressive when I actually can be, and when I'm on the charts. So this is something that you guys can do during the London session. Um, for those of you who are stuck with time, so this is quite a good one. And if I'll just draw something out for you. All right, so I'll explain the theory behind it first, and I'll do a PDF as well that I explain a bit more about the theory because it's good to understand where the basis of the strategy comes from and then putting it into practice. So understanding what actually happens. Okay, so during a general let me just draw this up. Okay. So generally what happens is we get an Asian session range, okay? So this is the Asian session here. And what happens is we either get a break to the upside or to the downside that creates the high or the low of the day. Now during the London session, which is this session here, okay? London session, you get the high or the low being created to start off with. And then US session, which is here, you get either a reversal or you get a reversal of some sort before price continues going in the direction that you were originally going from. Now, how to actually trade it? Okay, and this is a cycle that happens. I'm not saying it happens 100% every single day, but it's a cycle that happens quite common. It's quite a common cycle to happen. Okay, so if I just quickly summarize it, it's Asian session, break of the range, you either create the high or the low of the day, and then you get an impulse about 30 to 50 pips, and then you get a reversal of some sort at US Open, and you either get a continuation or a full-on reversal. And then you enter a range again, which is the Asian session. Now, how you trade it? Now, this is utilizing OBs. Okay, so utilizing OBs is quite key. It's quite key and makes it a bit more easier to understand because when I taught this cycle previously, essentially I was saying to enter off a double bottom and then trade the range about 30 to 50 pips, and it worked well. We had a 30 pip stop loss. However, this allows us to have a tighter stop loss by utilizing OBs and understanding the structure and the theory. So how you would trade it. So what happens is during the London session, so at the moment, if you go on GMT time, it's between 7 and 12. Between that time, we need to wait for either a high or a low to be created, which has happened here, okay? So we had a high being created, and all we need to wait for is a break of structure, okay? And we just need to enter at the OB, okay? So our entry points here. We have a 30 to 50 pip target, or you can either target the lows of the Asian session if you're selling and the highs if you're buying, or what you can do is either trade with stop loss, or another thing, once US opens, you can look to close it or monitor price action to see if you're going to continue holding. Now, if you are going to continue holding, say if the overall structure is bearish on this pair, then you have more reason to hold. If the overall structure is bullish but you have a high day created, you can still trade counter trend by trading this range. However, I would look to close either at the break of the Asian session, or at the low of the Asian session, or at the break of it, or at the US Open, because you know that you get some sort of reversal. So if I show you one that actually happened this week, and this one was quite a nice one. It shows you a continuation as well, and I explain the thought process behind it because this was a pair that I actually traded myself this week using this. Now this, as I said, is not a strategy I use as much. The same as the aggressive style. It's literally when I am active on the charts, when I'm actually looking. Because as you know, I don't trade as much. To be fair, these days it's more I just wait for the higher points of interest. But if I'm at the screen and if I'm bored, this is quite a nice one to just have a look at and understand what is going on. So if I go back to, let's go back to this point here. So if I show you what's happened, so what I've done is we've got the session indicator here. Okay, the white area is my Asian range, this is my US, the grey, and that's my London. Okay, what you do is mark out the high and mark out the low. So the last candle was this, so on the 5 minutes probably the best time frame to do it, and then you can work out when you're going to have to wait for either a range break. So I just set an alert at either the high or the low, and then you can just wait for this to happen. Now remember, you're only looking to trade it during 7 and 12, so you're only looking to trade it during this time frame. Okay, well, only looking for a high or a low to be created during this time. Okay, reason being is because this is the London session and this is where we're actually looking for the high or low to be created. Once US happens, some sort of reversal will happen and you don't know, it's very unpredictable, so just bear that in mind. So once we get a breaker structure, now I go straight to 1 minute, but as I say, go to any time frame you feel comfortable, and you should look for a breaker structure to happen. So we had a breaker structure here. Now we've got points of interest either here, here, and here. Okay, the overall move. So remember, when we look at OBs, you need to look for where the move actually came from. The overall move came from here. If you go to any, for example, go to 5 minute. The overall move came from here, and there's still inefficiency sitting there. So price does need to come here, and that liquidity wick up there is quite nice as well. But as I said, when I look in the lower time frames, I look to refine it and go to the lower time frame just to see what is clear, if there's anything above, because I always look for the extreme point of entry, which is all the way up here, because that's where the move happened. I like to try and get the highest point of the move, regardless of whether it's more likely to hit or not. But if you have a look, what we can see is a very clean, clear OB. That is our entry point. Okay, and what will happen is we're going to place a short position from here. An entry point, our stop loss, it can be 1 pip on this one. It's quite a tight one, so we get tight spreads anyway, and we have a 50 pip stop. Okay, if I just go to the 15 minutes, because it's just easier to play it forward then. So what tends to happen is once we get a move, we get a price trigger, and this is called the interesting part. When US opens, which is here, what happens? We get reversal, as I mentioned. However, the overall structure is bearish, so I had no reason to close, and we did reach a target of here anyway, of the Asian session low. However, I knew that this can be a swing style entry purely because the overall structure is bearish on Euro GBP. So you still need to understand structure and understand where direction is heading for the pair. So US session, it made more sense to have more of a continuation regardless of the reversal that we had. But yeah, so if I let the trade play on, and that's the trade, and just hit TP. So that was a 50R trade, and it was a very simple concept. Now, one thing to note is when you do get a break of the range, it generally reacts to some sort of OB that's sitting above or below. So this actually reacted to this 15-minute OB. It's not the cleanest OB, as I mentioned, but there's something going on in there which I haven't actually refined, but there's some sort of point of interest sitting there. So I would expect the price to actually react to here or here even, but it's understanding that, you know, where the high and the low can be created. So once we get a breaker structure, right, and if we get a breaker structure to the upside, you have to understand where can price actually react to and where can it react off. And the point of interest, first one was here and the second one was up there, but these obviously weren't the cleanest of OBs. But it's understanding that obviously you won't always get a clean OB, but you to understand where the price and where the move actually started from, because I'm sure if we go to a lower time frame, yeah, look there, and that's the OB within that 15-minute OB. Price reacted perfectly. I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. Price reacted perfectly to this point. Yeah, so it's a very clean and clear point of interest, and it's understanding where the move actually comes from. So that's the Asian session liquidity break range, whatever you want to call it, strategy. I call it daily pip cycle. The daily pip cycle. as I said, this doesn't happen all the time. When you're trading London session, focus on the euro and the GBP pairs. Try not to look at the USD pairs unless it's GBP USD and euro USD. That is fine, but don't focus on USD as such, because you're trying to focus on the pairs that move at those ranges. If you want to trade the US session, trade the US reversal, you can do. However, it's not as reliable as what happens in London, but play around with it and try to gain an understanding yourself of how this actually works. And I'll post some more breakdowns using this strategy a bit more, so you guys can get a bit more experience with it, and I'll show some breakdowns of it. But for now, take care, and I hope you enjoyed this video.